I'm Dr. Jordin Wiggins, and this is the Pleasure Principles podcast. Join me on this journey where sex, science, and sensuality meet. Let's change the conversation around sex and pleasure together. Welcome to the Pleasure Principles podcast. You know me, and you know I love to dive into a taboo topic and uncover the beauty and pleasure in it. The intersection of science, psychology, health, and how these things impact our life and relationships are what I love to do most on this planet. Because I believe running away from our pleasure is never the answer. I believe that the uncomfortable feeling you get when you hear we're talking about blowjobs today is a sign you need to get curious, explore your beliefs and opinions, and look for the pleasure. Maybe some of you are curious about how to make oral sex better. But if you are a little uncomfortable, remember, when you started listening to me and pleasure felt like a bad word, well, you trusted me then, and I'm asking you to trust me now. This isn't going to be a how-to on giving blowjobs. There are hundreds of those articles online. All you need to do is Google tips on how to give a blowjob or tips on how to spice up your oral sex technique, and there will be thousands of articles. Cosmo is a great place to start looking. So you'll find best positions to give a blowjob in. Hint, using pillows is amazing for you and your partner. Best techniques with your tongue, like licking his frenulum. Don't limit your blowjob to the penis only. Incorporate the testicles and the perineum. Take breaks, use lube. So there's so many of those tips out there, literally hundreds, thousands of articles. You know these things. If you don't know them, start with a quick Google search, and there will be tons of articles from credible sources. But that's the problem, that there are so many articles about credible sources, and you are still seeing these republished over and over and over again, which means there is something missing. And that something missing when it comes to your oral game is what we are going to talk about in this podcast today. There are some secret ingredients to memory-worthy oral. That's why today we are going to talk about giving and receiving, and about the difference between giving from a place of obligation to earn something because you want to check it off a to-do list, or giving because you want to give. Like you wholeheartedly want to give your partner pleasure. There is a big difference. With oral sex, we are turn taking, or we are prioritizing each other's pleasure. So we're giving our partners pleasure and they are receiving it. And we are receiving the feelings, the joy, the experience of giving our partners pleasure. So we get in this lovely loop of giving and receiving when we take turns. And when we give, then something is always going to come back to us. We're always going to receive, and we have to be open to receiving it. So what's the ultimate act of giving? One could say, one could argue, it's a blowjob. We all know the story. A lot of us can probably relate. Blowjobs are something that you do at the beginning of a relationship, when sex is new and exciting and fun, and you have all the new relationship energy, your brain is on fire with dopamine and norepinephrine. You're exploring each other. Everything's new, and it's just like so fun and so delicious. But then a certain amount of time in, maybe it's a few years, oral sex seems to be something that's like no longer worth the effort, or falls off of the very limited menu items that most people order off of when they're being sexual. Sometimes oral sex becomes a point of contention in a relationship, or a substitute for the sex that you aren't having. It's something that you do to maybe, if I give him a blowjob, then he's going to stop asking me for sex for a few days, so I'm just going to do that. And sometimes it's something that your partner is begging for, which, is there any more of a turnoff than having your partner beg for just a blowjob when you say you're not in the mood for sex? I'm like viscerally grossed out by that. It's a no for me. Let's start with some non-negotiables about blowjobs. First of all, no means no. Blowjobs are not a consolation prize for getting someone off your back. If you were ever giving a blowjob out of obligation because you think you have to, or because you just want to get it over with because someone is begging for it, that's a red flag. Your boundary, your safety, your security is being compromised. And I recommend you listen to episode 37 of the Pleasure Principles podcast for how a lack of security can impact your relationship and your desire for sex, because that's a big topic. But if you are feeling obligated, pressured, that is bad giving and receiving energy. In fact, it takes you out of giving energy and puts you like into energy where you're feeling forced or coerced or controlled. And no means no. We're not here for that. We want to dig deeper and figure out maybe why you don't want to give oral sex. Maybe you don't feel supported. Maybe you don't feel seen. Maybe you have sexual trauma. Maybe there's so many other issues in the relationship that need to be worked through first before you feel excited about giving your partner pleasure. But we want to talk about, where are we at today? And if no means no, no means no today. And we can keep listening for how to improve that situation. Second, non-negotiable. Unless you have specifically asked for or consented to it, the head push is no longer acceptable. It's 2022 and we are not here for it. In Sex and the City, Carrie talks about the blowjob tug of war. We need blowjobs to come from a place, like oral sex or sex in general, of wanting to give pleasure, not because we're getting these subtle cues or hints to do so. And this is a bigger conversation around like consent and openly stating your desires. And both men and women need to be taught and get better at doing this, because the subtle head push cue is it's also gross. We want to be able to ask for what we want and our partner to be a full fuck yes at giving it to us. So the head push is an example of bad giving and receiving. Another example would be your partner bringing home flowers and expecting sex in return, your partner unloading the dishwasher and expecting a blowjob in return. When there's expectation or obligation, there's something wrong. That it's just leaky giving and receiving energy. It's not clean. So we want to be like fully consenting to these experiences. Third thing, a blowjob can be an intimate and beautiful experience. It doesn't have to be what you see in porn. And that could be an important conversation to have with your partner if that's all they've been exposed to. If they want you like gagging, or they are aggressively putting their penis in your mouth, and those things are real turnoffs for you, and they make you feel unsafe or uncomfortable, or you're having like a physical gag reflex that is not making it enjoyable to you, it is time to watch some female-centered pornography or some real life sex with real people to get them exposed to a little variety of what is out there, what can feel good, and what would be more mutually pleasurable for both of you. And I've written about that a lot. So check out the Pleasure Principles blog and my book, The Pink Canary. We have a ton of female-centered ethical porn suggestions in my book, The Pink Canary. So let's talk about giving a blowjob from our feminine instead of our masculine, where we have the balanced giving and receiving energy. And to review, or maybe you are new to this concept, we all have a balance of masculine and feminine energy. The way that I learned about it or studied this was through traditional Chinese medicine and yin and yang energies and their balance. For some people, we tend towards more feminine energy, more feminine hearted. And for others, we're more masculine. Every single person on the planet has a balance of masculine and feminine. Some of us tend towards a little more yin, a little more feminine hearted. We want to be cared for, lovingly opened, penetrated, and like the masculine is like the doing. They want to be the penetrator. And this doesn't necessarily have anything to do with man, woman, male, female. It has a lot more to do with energetics. And we start to see problems if we have a truly feminine hearted person stuck in her masculine. So many of the women that I work with are high achieving, successful women. They are the doers, the organizers, the caretakers. They see problems 10 steps ahead and have solutions for them. But they're not good at stopping and resting. They're not good at being cared for. And this leads to a special kind of feminine burnout, exhaustion, numbness, resentment. Definitely destroys the sexual polarity and intimacy in intimate relationships. Gets you a lot of career success, but that's just showing you how you're off. If we're fully stuck in our masculine and don't take time or appreciate the feminine polarity. And when we are in our masculine, we push everyone around us too far, and we can push them into our feminine. So they become passive and withdrawn, and then we get snippy, annoyed, grossed out. We stop leaving space for others to show up and care for us. We might even offer a blowjob and get rejected because the polarity is that messed up in our relationship. So what does this all have to do with blowjobs? From now on, giving a blowjob is about us. We get to take our power back. So giving a blowjob is about us choosing, having the choice to give pleasure to our partners when we choose and when they choose to receive. So it's two people both having autonomy and deciding to give and receive pleasure. And sometimes it's going to be a no. And that's okay, because sometimes we are too tired or there is too much work stress, which I would argue that a blowjob is always recommended, or oral is always recommended when there is too much work stress. But hey, that might just be me. Quick note, receiving is feminine. And we have to be in touch with and open and channel that experience that giving pleasure to someone else, we get to receive how making someone else feel good makes us feel. And also it's reciprocal. So if we're giving pleasure and then our partner's going to want to give it back to us. So we will open and receive pleasure back. But that needs to be a whole other podcast. By making the focus on you giving pleasure, we get to take our power back. Giving a blowjob from a place of genuinely desiring to please your partner means that we're in control. We're doing it because we want to. We're invested and excited in our partner's pleasure. And there is no bigger turn on than that. We also get to receive the pleasure that making them feel good gives to us. And who doesn't want to see their partner feel good? If there's a voice in your head screaming, I am so stuck in my relationship, there is so much resentment, I am so crusty, I cannot imagine getting to that place of wanting to get on my knees and give my partner pleasure, then it is time to consider working with me and my team. Send me a DM on Instagram or apply to work with us directly at thepleasurecollective.com/programs, because this is what we do best. We're going to remove all the blocks getting in the way of you and your partner giving and receiving pleasure freely. Here are my tips on giving a blowjob from the feminine. Tip number 1, check in with your desire. Write it out, play it out in your head. What does it look like to you? What gives you butterflies in your stomach, turns you on? And take some time to really imagine that context. So do you have a dinner out and maybe you pull over somewhere secluded to give a blowjob in the car? I'm not recommending doing things that will get you arrested, but we're talking fantasy here, okay? Maybe the kids are in bed and still sleeping and you're waking up a little early and waking your partner up with some oral pleasure. Knowing these fantasies and kind of taking the time to think of all the details and what turns you on is really going to start helping you enjoy giving pleasure. But we need to find out what that looks like for you. Tip number 2, talk about it. We need to know what your partner likes. Remember when I said earlier, Google tips on how to give a good blowjob for like instructional steps, which is a piece of this whole thing. For example, Cosmo might tell you to lick your partner's perineum, but maybe your partner has a very cis heteronormative view of sexuality. And if you go near his perineum, he's going to jump 3 feet in the air and be really grossed out. So discussing these things of, hey, would you like to try this? Would this feel good for you? Is probably a good idea. And when you're trying new things, you can debrief afterwards and talk about what you both liked, what you both didn't like, because the goal is to give pleasure and we want our partners to enjoy it, but we need to know what they like. So get excited to explore, and mutual masturbation is another great way to figure out, what does your partner like? How do they like to be touched? So you can always watch them masturbate, see what they do, and mimic that. That's a great place to start. Tip number 3, blowjobs are not mandatory. There is no rule that you have to do anything that you don't want to do in bed. There's lots of creative ways to have sex, get enjoyment, and experience pleasure together that are not blowjobs. And there's no right way to do it. Maybe you have some sexual trauma and blowjobs really are a no-fly zone for you, or there's some hangups or miseducation around it. And right now it's a no. We can work on those things. We can get therapy for the trauma, work through the negative beliefs. But if blowjobs are a no right now, then let's start exploring some creative ways that your partner can still receive pleasure from you, maybe like a masturbation sleeve, but you don't feel like you're compromising a boundary. Tip number 4, we do not want to be making this a performance. You don't need to gag, spit, choke. We're trying to get away from performing. We're trying to get away from being in the moment to give pleasure. If you are doing a to-do list in your head, if you are thinking of, what did that article say? First, I'm supposed to lick here and then cup here. Not the ultimate oral experience for either of you. The focus is wrong. Our focus needs to be on giving pleasure and watching how your partner's body responds. And you are receiving that feedback and enjoying the experience together. People can tell. Kim Anami calls this junk food sex when it's not nutritious. You do it, but then something is left. You're left longing for more because it wasn't you were going through the motions or performing. So if you are giving your partner oral to get them off your back from asking for sex in the future, they're going to kind of know that. And it's not going to be the full experience that you are both looking for. So they're probably going to want another blowjob because that one left something to be desired. So sex that is nourishing, leaves you feeling connected, and something that you're going to want to talk about for years to come or days to come, is when you are both present and not performing. Performing is the worst. In men, even if they don't know it or can't say oh, she was faking it or just performing, they know on a deeper level because they're longing for something more. It's not this oh my God, that was amazing experience. So even if they can't articulate it, they know. And if you want the, wow, that was amazing, I can't believe it, you blew my mind, the performing needs to stop. Which brings me to tip number 5, stay present and mindful. Think about what you are doing, watch what's going on, stay in the moment instead of going through, like I just said, I kind of combined 2 into 1 here, got ahead of myself. Thinking about your to-do list, who you need to email, trying to remember the Cosmo article if you are doing it right. Anything that's going to take you out of the moment is a problem. So we want to eliminate distractions. Maybe you need to send the email first and give yourself some time to enjoy giving your partner pleasure. Tip number 6, slow down your movements. I'm going to say it again, slow down. So many parts of our day are overwhelming. We're at a hurried pace, and we want to make sure that we have the time to slow down, really enjoy this experience, make it more spacious. It's not to say that quickies aren't good, or aren't a type of intimacy that we should be having, but if you slow down whatever you are doing, we are going to increase the pleasure and arousal and desire factor. Tip number 7, change the goal. Let's not make the goal of giving a blowjob to make your partner orgasm. They have been training themselves through masturbation to orgasm quickly, most likely for their whole lives. And also, we don't want to make the goal getting it over with as fast as possible. We want to make the goal being present in the moment and enjoying the pleasure that you are giving your partner. Watch their body relax, or maybe watch it tense. Watch their breathing change. How do they respond if you touch their thighs or their chest? Don't try and get it over with as quick as possible. Enjoy the steps along the journey. And tip number 8, if there are certain things that make you particularly squeamish about oral sex, address them. For example, spitting or swallowing. This is a big one. Do I have to swallow? If that literally grosses you out, a partner that truly cares about you would not want you to do something that really grosses you out and makes you sick. So let's talk about these things and figure out what works. So maybe we could give oral sex in the shower or after a shower. Maybe if like taste and smell is an issue, maybe we incorporate flavored lube. Maybe we say like, hey, swallowing just really isn't my thing. So what can we do instead? There's no right way to do things, but there is definitely a wrong way. If you are hating every second of giving oral, then it's not pleasurable for either party. Start making an effort to have the kind of sex that is worth having for both of you. If your relationship is at a breaking point and the sex has gone to shit, this is where my team and I excel, and it is time to consider working with us. So if you want to know what that looks like, head to thepleasurecollective.com/programs and apply. We were put on this earth to help people have better sex and more connected relationships, especially if you are a highly successful, ambitious woman. We can help. So love to chat with you about what that looks like and the different options that are available. You are not broken. What you have been taught is try reading my book, The Pink Canary, for more tips on how we got here, how our negative beliefs are shaping and almost setting us up for failure in our relationships when it comes to sex and intimate connection. And remember, the work starts with you. It will always be about you and the pleasure you experience and put out into the world. And this is how we find ourselves. Pleasure is the way back to ourselves. So if we are lost, we don't know what to do next, we are not as happy as we should be, that is where we start creating the life that you have always desired. If you want to learn more about cultivating a fulfilling and satisfying sex life and relationship, visit thepleasurecollective.com/programs. Have a great week, everybody. If you like what you heard in this episode, leave me a rating. Your support helps me get discovered by more women like you. Together, we can change the conversation around women's sexual health and pleasure for you, your partners, and generations to come.